Zhao Shanghao. Good morning and welcome to the FINA, the fourth edition of the FINA Swimming Golden Coaches Clinic. My name is Bobby Hurley and I'll be your host over the next 3 days as we bring together the best coaches and technical managers from the 178 FINA national member federations. What a great opportunity it is for each and every coach in this room, an opportunity to learn from the best, to experience and exchange knowledge with like-minded people and experience everything that the FINA convention has to offer. Today we have a great lineup of presentations with Peter Andrew, Tristan Lahari, Nigel Redman, Jules Giguin, and Sebastian Weber. Without further ado, please welcome to the stage FINA President, Dr. Julio Thiso Maglione.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. First of all, excuse for the delay, but in this moment finish the opening of the conference. First of all, secondly, welcome to the FINA Swimming Coaches Golden Clinic, whose fourth edition is organized in conjunction with the FINA World Aquatic Convention here in the dynamic and fast-developing city of Hangzhou, China. Having this clinic just a couple of days before the start of the main FINA competition of the year, the FINA World Swimming Championship Short Course. It will provide precious tools to understand, explain, and analyze the great performance of our athletes. In this unmissable clinic, delegates for the 5 continents will learn from some of the most successful coaches of the world the secret leading this outstanding risk and with the tips and technique to achieve excellence. Together with our athlete, our devoted professional coach drive them to pick the shape on that day, on that minute, and that specific race. The close relation between swimmer and coach is made a sacrificed effort, mutual understanding, joy, dedication, and deep conviction. It's a complex interaction comprising many challenging moments, but of course made other of happiness and emotion. The championship here in Hangzhou will show once more the winning dynamic and successful strategy. The attractiveness of our competition for the fans and the youth and privileged place among international sport events are mainly due to the partnership athlete coach with the support of our national federations. Thank you to all coaching to your devotion and sport, and thank you for sharing with FINA and the member of our key success. Thank you very much. Good morning.
Before we get started, everyone's got a translation device on their chair. There's 4 different languages: English, Chinese, French, and Spanish. So just get that adjusted before we begin if you need the translation device. Our first presenter this morning is America's Peter Andrew. Peter is most famously known as coach and father to defending world champion in the 100-meter IM, Michael Andrew. Michael and Peter have amassed an amazing 100 national age group records in America through USRPT, ultra short race pace training. Here to speak about quality versus quantity, the periodization of training volume, please welcome Peter Andrew.
Thank you very much. I think, guys, I was hoping my presentation would come up. I just seen the picture of myself, and that wasn't in my presentation. So when Perry contacted us, now you have to excuse me with my voice because I think my son's kind of gone through this. This isn't how my voice usually sounds, but I've swallowed a frog, I think, and it's kind of coming out. When Perry first contacted us and asked us if we'd like to speak, and invited us to speak here, they said, this is your topic, periodization of training volume. And I kind of read it and I thought about it, and I contacted him back right away and said, that's not going to work because what we do will make no sense to anybody because I know how we train, how traditional programs run. And but then I thought about it, for sure, if we put non-traditional, because what we do is totally non-traditional, and what we do is periodization, because periodization, if you look at the meaning of it, is reaching the peak, right? So it's reaching your mountaintop. And this is a picture of Mount Everest, and if you see how treacherous it is getting to that mountaintop, it's a massive journey. Okay, so the periodization of a training program is whatever you put in through your year, getting to that ultimate event where you are your very best, okay? The difference in the way we see it and the way most programs see it is a lot of federations even look at a periodization of a quad where we want to be the best at the Olympic Games. We don't. We want to be the best all the time, so we want to be able to get to that mountaintop as fast as possible and then stay at the mountaintop and do that over and over again. We don't want to be able to have to get to the mountaintop, drop off the mountaintop, and then maybe twice a year we're swimming our best. I think we are in a time now with swimming where there's multiple meets. We have the World Cup where you need to perform well all the time. We have professional league trying to start up. We're in a change of the sport. And if we don't change with it, the sport will never change. Okay, so there is a different way. And what I want to do with the talk today is really challenge you. I know we have evidence because I brought my whole team with me. And he's right there. Now, let me show you a picture of my team. There he is. That was Michael winning the 100 IM. So that would be his mountaintop, right? So we know by results that what we're doing works. Okay, so I want to present what we're doing and why we're doing it. And first of all, I'm going to jump back to the mountaintop, okay? And if we think about swimming, one of the greatest swim scientists that just passed away recently, Dr. Carlisle, he, in the 1940s, was the swim revolution, right? Where he decided, and with other great minds, how we do this process of training to be our best. And, back then, we didn't have the science that we have now. So what made sense to them was to work really hard, to do massive yardage, really stress the body, and then at the end of it, when you want to perform your best, is have a big rest. And so he coined the word taper, which everybody uses, right? Are you tapered? When are you going to taper? This was Dr. Carlisle's words, is tapering. Okay, so we taper, you rest, and hopefully you've dived down because you're stressed out. You taper up so that you're better than where you started. And you get to the mountaintop and you have that great swim and win a medal or whatever. Okay, but what has happened right before, and this is the only reading that I'm going to do. I'm going to read this to you. So Bruce Wego, who is the curator of our Hall of Fame in the USA, did an interview with Dr. Carlisle before his passing. And this is what I love about science, great scientists, because not just like Dr. Carlisle, there are other great scientists like Dr. Noakes. Dr. Noakes, his whole career, he said, we need to fuel on carbohydrates. And then when the science came out, he realized, no, our bodies only process a small amount of it. If you have a lot of carbs, it's sugars, you become pre-diabetic, which he actually is. But he made that change. And it's the same with Dr. Carlisle, is he seen the science, and now this is what he said. He says, I now believe, he said, that the concept of overtraining, breaking the swimmers down, and tapering is stupid. And there is no scientific justification for training like this. It is not the right way to go. In the words of Bruce Wego, wow, did this mean that he now rejects the way he trained his swimmers for most of his career? And his response was an emphatic yes. As the man who led the revolution of 1946 and started modern training methodology, he now believes the swimming world is ready for the next great revolution. And I know before his passing, because obviously he was connected with the scientists that we work with, he's been watching Michael's progression from when he was a little boy. He has another Dr. Noakes interviewing him. Michael said to me when I came up here, where we were sitting there, he said, don't get up and insult the people, right? So I don't believe the way that the training is, because it's not right. It's science that they didn't have back then that we have now proves that it was wrong, okay? But with his words, he's the one saying it, not me. I just believe it. And I believe it because we are training a different way, and we have incredible results, and we're just getting started. Okay, so that's kind of my setup. What I want to do is challenge you. The challenge is go away. I always say to my kids, when you hear something, don't believe it right away, because you want to test it out and make sure it's truth. And so go away, study. There's so much data. Study, learn, and try it. Try it out on your athletes. I think this is wonderful, this where we can come together and share, because this is how we learn and this is how we get better. If things get hidden away and buried, how do we get better? It's just like being a rich man. By giving, you receive more. It's just a principle, and it's really this sharing. It's a beautiful thing. There was another study that's done that you could possibly find if we unbury it. John Leonard of ASCA, which is the American Swim Coaches Association in America, he got the head of USA Swimming at the time to give him $23,000 to do a study to prove what he called horse manure. And so he decided that that's kind of what we're doing. And so he wanted to do a study to prove that it was wrong. The studies come out, but that study's never made it to mainstream. And so we're trying to get them to release that. And that's not a good thing, I think we need to share and grow together. And that's what we're about. And that's why I appreciate you being able to come and share with you guys and go from here. This is my introduction. You can see it's blank. So I'm going to wing that one. So I'm really just going to introduce myself, and I'm going to drink some water as I go, because that frog's like really thirsty. So I'm originally from South Africa. My name's Peter Andrew. We settled in America. I put my son in a swim program. It was about a week or two in, I went to watch him swim. And I right away saw, wow, this guy has a gift. I believe that God gives us all gifts. We all have gifts. And it's up to us what we do with those gifts. And so obviously for me as his dad, I love him, and it's huge to me. So I set out on a journey. How do I help this little boy grow his gift? And there was a lot of confusion for me. I swam in South Africa, but I played rugby. And so it wasn't, I didn't ever really agree with the way we trained. And so I bounced around. And the more I learned, the more I realized I didn't know. And I still feel like that. Like the more I learn, the more I don't know. And eventually I was I bounced to all coaches, and I just felt like there was so much confusion in the sport. And we're at an ASCA conference, and the irony of this whole thing is the ASCA conference, which was set up by John Leonard, who had that was later, but John Leonard invited Dr. Carlisle, and they were honoring him. And so Dr. Carlisle asked Dr. Brent Russell to come and speak at this conference. And so I've seen the scientist, so right away, that's where I was leaning, is the science, how our brains function, how our bodies work. I went to listen to him, and it just blew me away. And I'm going to share some of the things that he went through that obviously made so much sense to me that we have to do this way. There's no other way. And I went up after his talk, straight away up, and I asked him, could I have his notes? And I basically forced him to have a relationship with me, a working relationship, not like weird. But we started working from 2009, and Michael started breaking national records. So national record, it's probably the same all over the world, right? It would be age groups. So he started at 10 years old, so that would be the fastest 10-year-old record of all time in the United States. We got to the age of 14, training this way, ultra short race pace training, and Michael broke every national record at the age of 14 in every stroke. So all the 50s, all the 100s, all the 200s, 200 IM, all of the 400 IM, for butterfly, backstroke, breaststroke, freestyle. It's amazing. And because of the specificity, we would just go after the records and just conquer them and go. And it's amazing how it worked. And I couldn't get him to do the mile or anything longer. And still, now he feels like 100's a long way. But at 14, I could get him to do all that because, he was younger and it was easy to bend him. But now I've learned so much about training. I train him for the events that he wants to do, and so we are doing the sprint events. And I'm praying that by the Olympics or after, he wants to go into and do the 200 IM. But that's kind of our start. We got in and we got going, and it was amazing. Okay, so for me to explain, and this was my wife's into she loves to, what's it called, podcasting? Podcast. So she loves to listen to everything, and it's, just gathering information. So Simon Sinek is a genius, and I was thinking, how do I explain what we do? And it's really the how we train. If I just told you that, it would make no sense. So we need to go in and get to the why. So it'll be kind of interspersed, the why and the how, okay? But I'm gonna work my hardest so that you understand, and it's pretty simple. I think a lot of times we make things a lot harder than they seem, and we feel like it should be harder, but it's really not. It's simple, okay? So if I think of swimming, I really think there's 4 components, right? And I list them in the order of importance that I believe. I believe psychology, your brain, the brain is everything. And the data we have now, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Dr. Noakes in South Africa, because if you haven't read about the central governor theory, you want to check that out, because it is massive. It's what he's saying is the body does not fatigue. There's no such thing. If you ask Michael at the end of a race, is your body fatiguing? He's going to say, yes, I feel fatigue. But it's a lie. The brain controls everything. Once a year, we do a meet in Kentucky. It's the Kentucky Derby meet. So they do some sprinting. And we went to the first one, and it was really nice. It's the Kentucky Derby, the big horse deal. And we get to speak to some of the trainers. And what I realized is horses are so similar to our athletes. And the trainers said they'll bring those horses in at night, and they put blinkers on them so that they can't see their competitors, because there'll be an alpha horse. And when the other horse sees the alpha, he won't even walk by the alpha. And it's the same with these athletes. They come to a meet, and whatever they think, that's what you are. I've seen athletes that look at Michael and think, I can't beat him. And so that's truth. They won't beat him because they've already placed themselves in an order. And so the mind is so powerful. Another thing we're learning about the mind is is stress. That hormone cortisol. If you stress out before your race is over already. It doesn't matter how well conditioned you are, because you've flooded your body with cortisol, you've locked it down. And that's why people think we're crazy, we race a lot, but he learns to race and learns how to be in a big stadium and how to channel that stress. And we've learned through now more science on the mind, that just imagining breath, active breath, how it strengthens the prefrontal cortex, which actually will change how the cortisol is released. And it's just super interesting. So the mind is massive and most important because it controls everything. And then we get to technique. If our technique isn't right, then it doesn't, again, matter how conditioned you are. So we have to be a good technique, and I'll cover that kind of at the end briefly. The big thing with technique, I believe, there's only two things that impact technique. It's propulsion, and propulsion is really not a big deal because you can be maximally propulsive. You take a prop of a boat and you crank that thing up heavy, it'll cavitate, the engine will cavitate. So maximum propulsive, no problem, but it's drag. Where does the arm go? How deep does the arm go? How high is the head? All those type of things. So technique is massive. And then nutrition. Run a car on no gas. It's not going. And it's the same thing. We run all the muscle glycogen out of an athlete. They're not doing anything. You're not gonna get anywhere. Okay. And then that's what we're dealing with today is conditioning. So we're going to spend more time on conditioning because that is our periodization in our training. Okay. And we'll touch briefly on everything. Okay. So here we are. I think there's two main slides that I'm going to talk about that. But the brain, we're back to the brain. And this one is, if you think about a brain, okay, like anyone's brain, it codes specific movements. The brain is very specific. It's just a giant computer, okay? So if you do a movement like this over and over and over, the brain codes that, okay? So no matter what you do, the brain will code those movements. So when you swim train, if you come in and you're swimming slowly, what do you think your brain's doing? It's coding that slow movement, okay? And I know a lot of people say, well, we need to swim slowly in the beginning of the season and work our aerobic base and build this base. But it's a lie because your aerobic base is worked just as well if you train anaerobically at the pace that you race. So we can get far away from that. You do not need to do slow swimming, okay? We do a lot of lessons that have been sponsored by a camera company, which is really, really good for me in that. So let's say I have an athlete that comes in. It helps me because I see what others are doing, and then I'll watch on Michael what he's doing. And so it's really nice because I get paid to do lessons, and it's actually benefiting me to help Michael. But let's say I have a kid that comes in to swim, and they're coming in with a freestyle arm. It enters, and instead of setting a catch, it slides across, okay? What happens is that kid's been doing that for a very long time, so that movement is coded in that brain, okay? And you guys as coaches would have experienced this. You see a kid doing something, and then you tell him, you know what, you're doing this, correct that. You need to anchor this way. And they hear you, and they do it, but then as time goes on, they go back to this. And that's because this is a learned movement. We've learned it, so it's lodged in your brain. So unless you can make this movement over and over and over and over, you're always going to go back to what's coded. And the tough thing is we haven't figured out how you can get into the brain and get rid of a movement that what will happen is if you make this your powerful movement, the brain will now grab that movement and this one will become the less positive, and it'll kind of be filed away. And I mean, you could almost think of alcoholics. You never really are not an alcoholic. You stop drinking, you go through all that process, but as soon as an alcoholic takes a drink again, they're back. So we can't get that out of our brain. Our brain works very, very specifically. A quick story on, I was in South Africa when I was a little boy. I used to go surfing with my dad on weekends, and we'd be on the back line, and I'd see these guys jumping out of helicopters. all dressed up in black. It was the coolest thing ever. I don't know if you guys watch American movies, the G.I. Joe. They were like that. And as a little boy, it was super cool. And that was my vision. I knew I had to go to the military at the end of my schooling. And that was my dream. I'm going to be one of it was a Navy dive operational team guys. They would jump out and roll off fast boats. And so that was my dream. And I got there. I mean, once I got into the program, I hated it. It was awful. And I've still got scars all over my feet from barnacles and ropes and awful things. But what I learned and what I look back on when I'm training Michael is we're like down to a team of 8 guys, and everything was timed. Everything was specific. We had a route to get changed. We had so much time to get changed. We had so much time to get on the chopper, the helicopter, to fly out over the ocean. We were on the point of Africa, so if something sank or if there was trouble, they flew us out. We'd jump in the ocean and save people. And you had seconds, really. Someone could drown in seconds. And so we wanted to be as quick as we could on the choppers out to the site. Same as swimming. Everything's done in milliseconds. We have to be as specific as possible. But I look back on that. We never made the time. They always told us, no, you go again, and we'd be punished all the time. But when we had a call out, in 2 minutes, we were on that chopper, fully dressed and ready to go, because we had done those movements over and over and over. And it's just a learned habit. And it's amazing how our brains function. So if I were to sum up ultra-short race-based training in one word, it is specificity. So specificity is being as specific as we can be, so that when we come to race, what we've done in training, we train for it. We don't have to think about like how we're going to do this. Dr. Russell's favorite saying always was, mixed training produces mixed results. So we don't do anything mixed. I know a lot of you do kicking on a kickboard. And if you think about it, okay, here we go, kicking on a kickboard. And so we're kicking up and down, up and down. And so you have to tell me where in swimming do we kick up and down. We don't. Everything is on a rotation. So why would we ever train to do something that we never actually do in swimming? It makes no sense at all. And what we know about our brains is that, let's see, segmented training will not replicate itself into a total action, meaning if we do one arm drills, that's not going to just fall into your stroke. You need to do the full stroke all on its own. And if there's science that proves that, that'll be awesome, because I'd love to read that. It's just, there is none. There is none. So to be a fast swimmer, you have to swim fast and do it over and over. And that's really the only way. Okay. I mean, I shouldn't say the only way, because that sounds insulting. But that's the only way that we'll do it, because that's what I believe. I am that horse with the blinker, because I will gobble up information that is scientific and that works. Okay, so I'm going to explain kind of how we train a set. So just for giggles, I'd say, Michael, if we're training the 100 freestyle, we always go off his personal best time. So let's say his personal best time is 60 seconds. So what we'll do is, we know that it takes 4 25s to make 100. So we divide that 60 by 4. So he needs to hold 15 seconds for a length, okay? And then it's almost impossible to train at race-paced speed more than a 25 if you're training for the 100 race, right? If you do 50s, you're only going to make 1 or 2, and it's not going to be any use. So we use 25s. And what we're trying to do is we trick the body into thinking that it's swimming the 100 race the whole time that we're training, because we'll race for 15 seconds to the wall, and then we rest for 15 seconds. And that is actually the most important component of the training, is the rest time, because that rest time is only enough time for the blood to kind of get through the body, reoxygenate the muscle, and you're going again. Because if the heart rate abates, meaning drops down, that's when lactate starts to accumulate. And lactate's not really the problem, it's the hydrogen ion that follows it that locks the muscle down. So if we rest too much, we destroy what we're trying to do. Okay, so basically you're going to be working anaerobically the whole way through. Our goal is to make 4 times race distance, which would be, if he can make 16 lengths of 25s at 15 seconds with 15 seconds rest, we're doing a really great job. And then we can start to drop the time a little bit. Because obviously the faster you are, the faster you're going to race. And usually we don't drop the time inside of training. We wait, because we race so much. If he swims a personal best, we judge his make times off his personal best. Okay? For 200s or miles or anything else, for 200s, if we're training for the 200s of races, then we do 50s. Okay? And it's the same thing. You take your 8 lengths, you divide it by 4, so we know we're holding this amount of time for a 50, and we rest then 20 seconds. And then if you're doing the mile, it's but everything is the specificity of that race pace. Because remember, when we talk about specific, it's the speed, the velocity, the technique, they are all a component of that race, and that's what we want to do. So when he stands up on the block, it's trained. He doesn't have to think, oh, what am I going to do? And there's a lot of science on that. When you get up onto the block, and as a coach, you're telling the kid, do this, do that, do this, do that. When you start to think, you actually pull yourself backwards and you'll underperform. So we don't do that. We just race. And the big thing I've been learning so much training him is how to train in love. He does not respond, and most athletes do not respond to negativity. And it's really about loving. I trust him. What we'll find too, let's say he's tired, right? And so now he can only hold a 15.5. We walk away. Because if I train him at 15.5, I'm actually training him to be slower. And so what I know is that fatigue will accumulate. And he may just be a little fatigued. So we rather rest and get stronger. Because the idea is stress plus rest equals growth. But if the stress is like in the 1940s in the program that's run right through to today, if the stress is too big, you never recover to where you actually get stronger. Okay, so this was the study that really sold me on what we do now, ultra short race-based training. Okay, I'm going to use the little pointer. Does that even show on there? Okay, no. Oh, can you see it? It's tiny. Okay, maybe I won't use it. Yeah. Okay, so this is the penultimate for me, right? Muscle glycogen. This study was done on cyclists because they used electrodes to hook to their bodies, and so we know that wouldn't work with swimmers because electricity and water, it wouldn't be good. There'd be lots of unhappy people. Okay, so they did this study, and what you'll see is on the muscle glycogen side, if we look at that top line up there, it's short work, so short work, short rest, and see how high your muscle glycogen. We retain a ton of muscle glycogen working that way, okay? If you do, which they do in the US, hundreds, this is what's going to happen to your muscle glycogen. You're going to tank it down to the bottom, and you'll be totally depleted. Okay, and so what is the point of that? Because we know if you deplete your body of muscle glycogen, it's going to take you 48 hours to replenish. And if you're turning around in 8 hours to do a second training, what are you going to do? You're going to damage your body, and you'll sound like me, and what will happen is you'll get sick because you're going to deplete yourself. We need to stay fresh and powerful. And so that made so much sense. We can retain, of course we're going to use up some of our muscle glycogen, but that's easy to replenish because it's not a lot gone, okay? So glycogen is our fuel. We need it to run. Then we go across to blood lactate, which I think is a very misunderstood term because lactate is a fuel. And when we're training and we're going that 15 seconds with that short break, the lactate's actually being used as a fuel source. It's that little hydrogen ion that's the damager, okay? So here, if you look, 10 seconds rest, 10 seconds work, 20 seconds rest, so short work, short rest. It's the same thing. We don't shoot up. We keep a low level of blood lactate. And the same on the other side. High work, high rest, and you shut your system down. So for me, it's like, okay, I get it. You know, we are training specifically, and we're able to manage. You know, I mean, again, it still comes back to that little equation of stress, rest, improvement. Okay, and this, I'm not sure why I had a blank there. Okay, so this would be how it looks. Okay, probably a good way to explain this would be bodybuilding. Building muscle, you know, these guys with the big muscles that walk around on the beach. And to build muscle, we have to get into the gym and we stress, we push something big, we actually tear the muscle fiber, okay? But then out of training, so here you've torn the muscle fiber down, you get out of training and you rest, and you eat half a cow and drink some milk and rest. And now what happens is your body grows back and it gets to where you started, and then there's overcompensation, so you grow a little stronger. And so this is what we're doing with Michael, is we get in over here and we train. We have what we call a neural failure. So if he's going 15 seconds rest, 15 seconds, we get to 12 and he has a stumble. So he goes to 15.5. So I know that the brain is not firing to the muscle, there's a breakdown, we rest a cycle, so about 40 seconds. And we'll do that 3 times and that's it. We've got down to now where we just fail once and it's it. Because what we want to do is we just want to just overreach. We don't want to depress his system down here because then we'll never get back up there. So we want to just damage the system and then let it regrow and overcompensate. And so his work week looks like this. This is what our work week or our work month looks like. Is we stress, we overcompensate. We stress, we overcompensate. And we want to be getting better and better and better so that we can go week after week and swim faster every time. And that's what we do. One other thing that's really interesting is with Michael. For those of you who have watched him at long course junior world championships, Michael got up and on the one night he swam 3 races back to back in finals. He broke 3 world records and obviously won them, okay? So how's that even possible? And I'll tell you is that Michael is a more oxygenated athlete than anybody that trains building a slow aerobic base. And the reason for that is if I took a knife, I'm not sure you'd really see the muscle fiber, but it sounds nice. If I sliced your bicep open, how your muscles are made up is we have slow twitch muscle fiber, we have medium twitch, and we have fast twitch. The fast twitch, there's a certain amount that is convertible, okay? So if you train with short work and short rest anaerobically, most of that muscle that is convertible is going to change from a glycotic fiber to an oxidative fiber. So the glycotic fiber, when it works and creates energy and what it does, it gives off, that's where the lactate, we produce lactate, right? And acid. The oxidative, it's a water molecule, it's good, we're good. He is a more oxidative athlete. And so he can recover and he can train better and be better. And we've been doing this since he was 8 years old. So probably what we could have converted is being converted, you know. So so he's really fast. Yeah. Okay, so this is the scary part. This is what the average training looks like of I would say a collegiate training program in the United States and probably all around the world, because you get in the water because you overstress. We push too hard, And then we get out of training, and that's where you recover to. Oh, we don't adapt. That's not good. And then we go again, and we beat that athlete up. And then, boom, and eventually, you're all the way down there, and then you have to rest and taper, right? Because now we expect that athlete to rise back up and be stronger than where they started. And it seems like such a failed model, because I know what happens when you're fatigued, okay? If we think about technique, is what is the most important thing in a swimmer's body is his shoulders, okay? And there's a lot of swimmers that are fantastic that have damaged shoulders because they've been driven too hard by college coaches. And I know Dr. Russell gets very upset about this because it's almost child abuse. You know, when you overwork an athlete, you damage their working parts, because this is how a pull should be. And that's why the rotation is so important, because we need to adapt this way, because that's how the shoulder works the best, up and down. When you're fatigued, it gets really hard. So what you'll do is you might drop and start dropping your shoulder in front of you. So what happens now is that the ball rotates in the cuff, and you'll damage your labrum, and then boom, your shoulder's gone. And it's not good. And that's caused from this. If you just overreach and recover, we never get near any injuries, because we stop before we overstressed. You know, you deplete your system, you make yourself sick, and that's the way we do things. And, you know, if you look at other sports, there really isn't many other sports that do this. You know, I'd love to interview the very fast sprint, Usain Bolt. You think Usain Bolt runs marathons so he can run that fast? I highly doubt it. You know, he's not doing that. He's doing something ultra short, ultra fast, and training himself to be a great athlete. So my challenge is try and follow the science and make a change. The other problem is we go back to the brain, right? And I've spoke to so many great athletes, and it's because they've done all this big yardage, they absolutely believe they have to be doing it. So your brain is already, it's compromised. And so, you know, fortunately with Michael, we got his brain when he was young, and so he believes this. But a lot of people, it's just so hard to change. And that's why, you know, Dr. Russell said it's going to take 20 years to make the change. It's because we're so conditioned. And so, you know, it's going to be the younger that come up that make those changes. And not always, because you know, I stood with a coach on deck, 86 years old or something, Cal Benz, Penny, you know Cal, and he used to talk to me all the time, and I couldn't hear a word he was saying. I just nodded all the time. And at that age, he changed his whole philosophy, and that's what makes people great. If we can admit that, you know what, maybe we're wrong, and try the other way and go. And this will grow our sport. This will make it that athletes can compete multiple times. They can be fast. They don't have to be tired and overworked. Okay, so the last thing I'll talk about is our technique. Okay, obviously propulsion and drag, I mean, those are the two big things. We're always working on Newton's laws. You know, Newton's laws talk about whatever's happening here is an equal and opposite on this side. So if your head's up, your hips are down. Doc did a study with some scientists in Oslo, and really what they figured out was the most efficient, fastest way to swim is in a negative angle, which means your head is slightly under the surface and the hips are slightly on the surface. And probably the best person in the world that does that, I think he's got some goofy other things going on, is your guys' Sun Young. He swims in a negative angle, and it's very effective, and we see that. Okay. Penguin, not a dolphin. I mean, we are front appendage driven, so we always got to save those shoulders. You know, so we're always working on not compromising our body. We do what we call a macrocycle that's made up of 7 or 8 one-week microcycles. Okay, so we're kind of working on the most important. These 3 are the most important for us, is streamline, because nothing good can happen off a non-streamlined body. And we're working, and you can watch Michael this weekend if you're at the pool. You'll see on all his strokes, we're actually trying to always get to a negative angle. And it is so much faster. So streamline, if that's compromised, nothing else is going to be good. Breathing, we try not to breathe on a work cycle. I mean, these are all simple things that coaches, we do have on our website, and I think I might have that up if Perry put it on. You can go there. We have like an 8-week free course, and so you can watch and see. We kind of speak about why we do what we do, and then there's a course on there too that you can buy if you want to. And then body roll. Body roll is so important because if you're not body rolling, you're not being able to anchor properly. And so, yeah. And then through the rest, kicking. Kicking is probably the most misunderstood, I feel, where we are, because a lot of people feel like you generate power with the kick. And you can generate power with the kick, but if you think about the body line, in order to generate power, you have to drop the leg out of the body line and get that flick. And that means now when the leg's outside, you have water hitting the leg. So sure, you can create power, but drag always overweighs power. And this is such a big muscle. You rather want to transfer that power into the lats and have that all connected. And use the kick for balance to get those hips up high. And so that, obviously breaststroke is a propulsive kick, but so that's all I'd cover on technique. And this is kind of what it is, this is obviously going to be very different for all of you because every athlete is different. And this would be just kind of what a work week would look like. 200 strokes. The 50s of all strokes, that is where we do overspeed. So it's 25s at all-out pace, and we only do about 8 of them. And that's really just for that speed. You'll see as we get toward the end of the week, because remember, we're always trying to manage fatigue. We start with 200s, so it's 50s at your 200 pace, and then 100s, and then 200s. And as we get to the end of the week, you'll see like the 200s, we switch to 25. So instead of doing it in 50s, we do it in the 25 because that's super easy to make your pace on a 25. Because what happens is you will still accumulate fatigue as you get through the week. And so we just manage that. And we've been blessed with some of our sponsors and stuff. Michael's sponsored by Massimo, and so we can monitor his SpO2 and see how stressed his body is by watching that. And so we always kind of know, and it's just communication. And I trust him now that if he can't make it, he can't make it, and we walk away. And that's probably a really difficult thing for coaches, is to be able to just, you're not good today, let's rest, and we'll go again tomorrow. And so it's a huge thing. Okay. But yeah, my challenge really for you, there you go. Okay, so if you write that down, that would be our website. I asked Perry to put it up. It was like a last-minute thing. And Tina, my wife, put up everything's on there. So there's an 8 week. So if you want to learn more about what we see as important in technique, that'll be good. What's that? Contact. Oh yeah, and if you want to email us and have questions or anything, just feel free. Don't call us, we'll call you. Yeah, so yeah, but the challenge from this speech, right, is, make a change. Make a change for the sport, because the sport will grow. And it really is. If you look at other sports, golf, tennis, swimming is universal. I mean, when it comes to the Olympics, right, everybody's watching swimming because every country does swimming. And if we can make this more exciting, this sport it should be like soccer, I mean, it can be more exciting because we have camera angles and, we can have dances and things. Okay, so time for questions. So hot up here. Did you guys put heaters up here?
Round of applause for Peter Andrew, please.